We'll call to order the BZA meeting for Wednesday, February the 28th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Quick explanation of what tonight's meeting is going to be about. So we're going to be discussing the cases. We will open the case. We'll have the staff give a presentation. The applicant at that point will come up and give their presentation about the case, and then we'll have open session for those in the audience who would like to speak for or against the case. After that, we'll close the public portion, and then the board will then ask questions of anyone that might have spoke this evening. You are going to be sworn in shortly, so we'll do that momentarily. And then before that, we're going to have election of officers. So we got a little bit of business to get out of the way before we get to the cases at hand. So for roll call vote, please.
Mr. Bartle?
Here.
Ms. Owens?
Present.
Mr. Shupp?
Present.
Mr. Sydow?
Present.
Mr. Roberto?
Present. So our first order of business this evening on our agenda would be to nominate our officers. We have 3 offices that will be filled. This is always done in February. And our first office would be the election of a secretary. Do we have a nomination?
Mark Shupert for secretary.
Okay, Mark Shupp. Anybody else? We have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second. Any discussion? Anyone else would like to be elected? See none. We have a roll call vote, please, for Mark Shupp.
Mr. Bartle?
Yes.
Ms. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Shupp?
Abstain.
Mr. Sydow?
Yes.
Mr. Roberto?
Yes. Congratulations, Mark.
Thank you.
Next office to fill would be for the vice chairman. Mr. Seidel has said that he's interested. Is anyone else interested in running for office of vice chair? I see none. Can we have a motion and a second to nominate Mr. Seidel?
I'll make them. Oh, go ahead.
Make a motion to nominate Mr. Seidel.
Okay, and do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second's been made. Any discussion? Roll call vote?
Mr. Bartle?
Yes.
Ms. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Shupp?
Yes.
Mr. Roberto?
Yes. Next office will be for the office of chairman. Do we have a nomination?
I'll nominate Mr. Roberto for chairman.
We have a second?
Second it.
Second's been made. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Anybody else interested in running? Roll call vote?
Mr. Bartle?
Yes.
Ms. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Shupp?
Yes.
Mr. Sydow?
Yes.
Mr. Roberto?
Yes. Thank you. Next on our agenda would be swearing in our applicants and anyone that's going to speak. If you have not signed in and you plan on speaking this evening, anyone here has not signed in? They plans on speaking? Okay. I have a sheet right here, ma'am, if you want to sign in. We'll go and get, which case do you want to speak for, ma'am? Right here, I have it right here, ma'am. Here, they're up here. We can help her out. Take her over there to the podium for her. Thank you, sir. Okay, thank you. All right, so the first case this evening, I gotta do swearing in, excuse me. So if you plan on speaking this evening, please stand and raise your right hand. Ma'am, do you plan on speaking this evening? Just stand up and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that you will tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth before the Board of Zoning Appeals? Say, I do.
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. All right, first case this evening would be for BZA 24-3, a variance at 10197 Colerain Avenue. Does the staff have a presentation?
I do.
Thank you.
For our first case, we have BZA 24-3. The address is 10197 Colerain Avenue, commonly known as Skyline Chili. The case is for a sign height variance. The parcel number is listed on the screen and on the packet available on colerain.org. It's in B2 General Business District. The applicant's Alex Barnett, and the owner is Chili 3 LLC. Skyline Chili, the applicant in this case, is requesting a variance that will allow for the construction of a pole sign that is 24 foot 6 inches high along the western side of Colerain Avenue. The applicant argues that, as you'll see in a moment, the current sign is partially blocked by an ODOT sign if you're heading northbound on Colerain Avenue. In turn, this limits his visibility and advertising capabilities. A previous request by this applicant was brought to the Board of Zoning Appeals on November 29th of last year, case BZA 2023-19. In this request, the proposed pole sign was to be 22 foot 6 in height, 2 feet lower than the currently proposed sign. The applicant was not present at the hearing, and the request is denied 5-0. The zoning issue is from 1583 of our Colerain Township zoning resolution, and the text states that the height of the sign shall not exceed 15 feet. So we don't allow pole signs that are taller than 15 feet. Here's a picture, and if you can identify with my pointer, the ODOT sign that directs people onto the interstate, 275, blocks out at this one spot the Skyline Chili sign. It's limited to about 1 or 2 car lengths if you're in the lane going straight northbound. It's visible from every other direction. Here's the site, and the red box with the A is where the sign currently is. This is where they would like to take the sign from being roughly around 14 feet to the 24 foot 6 proposed height. And they would keep the same sign face. The pole would just get significantly taller. And on the right side is a diagram of what that pole sign looks like and would look like taller. Excuse me. Here's a picture from Cages that shows the property lines of the site, and here's a zoomed in picture. If anyone isn't familiar or needs a little help, this is in front of Lowe's next to Steak and Shake on Colerain Avenue. Here's the aerial imagery of the site, so you can kind of get an overview. Right here is where the sign in question is. So it's kind of like right on the corner of the site. Notably, Steak and Shake and Lowe's have around the same size sign that Skyline has right now. They don't have a significantly taller sign. Across the street, Burger King has a very minimal monument sign, and Wendy's does not have a ground sign at all. So the argument that their signage is blocked can actually be found in other places in the township, such as this example at Hobby Lobby with Barbecue Burrito in the background. You can perfectly see both signs right here. If you go up a little bit, 1 car length, Barbecue is totally blocked by Hobby Lobby. Here's another example. Keep eyes on the Frisch's sign, which is one of the probably 5 tallest signs in this community. And as you get closer, the Frisch's sign disappears behind another ODOT sign going the other direction on Colerain Avenue. So if the applicant were to argue that they had a unique situation that would require for a taller sign, this 35 to 40 foot sign, would they have to go taller as well? We have another unique situation with Geraci Jewelers here with Subway. If you're going northbound on Colerain Avenue, you see both signs perfectly. If you're going southbound, the Geraci Jewelry sign is totally, completely blocked by Subway. This is another instance where a sign is blocked by either another sign or an ODOT sign, or staff believes that's just the nature of having signage on the road. There's going to be some angles that are better than others. A couple more examples. Here's a sign turning on a Ronald Reagan. Behind that is a Dunkin' drive-through. Their signage is totally blocked by an ODOT sign. It's wall sign. What are they to do? And finally, I think There is a cheddar sign that's blocked by turn lane signs. So this is just to illustrate that this is not a hardship. This is something that most or all businesses have to deal with. Across the street, Burger King is partially blocked by this power box, and even Steak and Shake is blocked by Skyline sign. So we have an idea in the development department where if Skyline contacted Steak and Shake and they each put a double monument sign where each of those red flags are. If Steak and Shake agreed to put a Skyline sign on their property, if Skyline agreed to put a Steak and Shake and they each had one on each corner, that could be a solution to the problem. So there are solutions outside of the variance that exist for the applicant. So staff findings, these are based on the Duncan factors, which we use in Ohio. And I've highlighted the ones that I think are most significant. Staff's opinion, the request is itself substantial in nature. Anything over 15 feet tall is substantial. We don't want any signs in this community that are taller than 15 feet anymore unless there is a most extreme hardship, and there's not in this case. It's staff's opinion the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered. That sign, if it were 24'5", it would be totally, or 6, would be totally out of place with the other signs. And finally, it's staff's opinion the spirit and intent behind the zoning resolution would not be observed and substantial justice would not be done by granting this variance. So for that reason, staff recommends denial of BZA 24-3.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for staff?
I've got one. Do you know how high the existing sign is that they're,
It's 14.6. I want to say it's somewhere between 14 and 15.
so it meets?
It does. It's legal.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions for staff? I see none. Is the applicant present? Yes. Would you like to come give a presentation, please? State your name and address for the record.
My name is Mike Cassidy.
And address.
My company is Preferred Resources. I'm here representing Atlantic Sign Company and Skyline Chili.
And the address.
My address
Yes, sir.
is 5769 Vice Lane, Burlington, Kentucky, 41005.
Thank you, sir.
I do have a handout. We went through an exercise similar to what staff did, and if staff is able to bring some of your
I can when the screen comes back on. It's been blacking out.
excuse me?
I can bring it back up when the screen comes back on, but it's been intermittently blacking out.
Oh.
So as soon as it does, it'll be right back up there.
I don't mind waiting, if you don't mind waiting. But I do have these, and I just...
Do you have enough for everyone to see, or is this?
There's 7 copies.
Thank you. For the record, the applicant has given us some photos of northbound and southbound, highlighting, he's yet to explain.
Right.
And there's one.
Staff made the comment. Oh, should we wait? Well, I
Mr.
can
Miller,
go on with this part of it.
Mr. Miller, would you give one of these to staff, please? And then one can go back to the applicant.
The simplest solution to this whole thing
Thank you.
is to simply have the state take down the regulatory sign. And I'm not exactly sure of the timetable, 8 to 10 years ago, John Lamborghini's, the grandson of the original founder of Skyline Chili, contacted me because there was an electronic message center incorporated into that sign. And he was trying to find out what it was going to take to upgrade it. And when we got finished talking about the dollars that were involved, he elected not to do it. But at that time, that regulatory sign was not there. So we didn't have an issue with our pole sign. The hardship that was created by the state. We didn't put that sign there because we were careless about our location. We had put that sign there because we were concerned about the location. And then the state comes in and puts up a substantial regulatory sign. And now our sign is blocked, not at one particular spot. And if you take a look at sheet 102, or actually if you look at 101, you'll see on the northbound pictures, we take that from various locations farther south on Colerain Avenue. Now, the traffic count at that point is about 23,000 cars a day. And let's do the multiplication. We multiply it times 5 because those statistics by the ODOT is based on a 5-day. That's 100,000 cars a day, plus your weekend. Now multiply it times 4 instead of 4.3. You're talking about 500,000 exposures. And this is their advertising and their identification. They're not interested, I want to say that I said that wrong. They're interested in maintaining their existing market, but they will not stay in business if they can't improve their market share. So what like I said, the simple proposal, and it's not going to happen, is to just remove the regulatory sign, and we don't have a hardship. The other part of this is granting a variance involves being concerned with the public's health, safety, and welfare. Well, there's been a pole sign there. Raising this sign up so it's now visible doesn't become a bigger threat to the public's health, safety, and welfare. We're moving it farther back off the street. The location where the new sign will go will be another 10 to 15 feet farther off the street. And that's going to give us optimum visibility. And then we don't have to deal with the regulatory sign. And then the old sign comes down. Well, we take the old sign, we don't increase the size of the sign, we just raise it so you can see it. And if you think about it, as you're traveling northbound, you're going to come to that turn lane. If you're not familiar with it and somebody says you were just south of 275 and your client says, hey, let's meet up at Skyline Chili and let you have a local flavor, and it's just north of the interstate and you're new to the area, you're going to try to find it. It's over on the left-hand side as you travel northbound. And we've got this regulatory sign that while we've got a heavy traffic flow, somebody's trying to find Skyline Chili. Now, sure, they get up past where that sign is, and staff made the comment that it's at only one point, but like I said, if you take a look at 101, you see there is about 4 or 5 places where you still cannot see that sign. Now, I know there's this mentality that it's Skyline Chili. You don't need, what do you need to worry about the sign for? Because that's part of our business. It's part of our survival. We cannot survive maintaining the existing market share. We always have to improve it. Staff showed a couple other pictures, and I was really interested in the one he showed where Skyline Chili blocks the view of Steak and Shake. Well, guess what? Take a closer look at, show that one again.
Trying.
Where was that picture taken?
Across from Skyline Chili.
It was taken from the parking lot. That's not from the street.
It's from turning into Lowe's. There's a car going out of Lowe's.
That picture is from the parking lot.
So
That's not out on the street. That's a distortion of what we're talking about. That's all I'm saying. It's not a fair assessment of what we really have. I will give you the other parts. The other part is we were talking about Frisch's and the other blockage and so forth and so on. But all those signs were considered at that time and whose location was where. I will tell you in a minute, I am a consultant in graphics and signage and work nationally. And I understand the concern about the proliferation of signage. And some of us here are old enough to remember that sign codes, more than 75%, almost 80% of them were written to where pole signs or freestanding signs needed to be a minimum of 10 to 12 feet off grade. Why? Because the concern was people pulling out of the ingress and egress into a main thoroughfare needed to make sure that they could see underneath a particular sign. Now we've gotten to that point where we have ground signs, and ground signs are as much a traffic problem as anything else you can put out there. Again, if you drive up and down Colerain Avenue and look at the ground signs and watch traffic flow and see if you can still see that ground sign as you are traveling against that traffic, and the average height of a median car is 52 inches. And if we've got ground signs that are 60 to 72 inches, we're basically blocking them. I did a survey of Colerain Avenue south and north. And I understand the concern, I really do. And I understand writing codes how they're written. But there is a sign on the underside of Lowe's you cannot see. Now it's blanked out now, but you can't see it. And to use that as a credible application that signs don't have to be that tall, I think is a little bit distorted. And our whole case is the fact that we're not asking for a bigger sign. We wouldn't be here tonight if it wasn't for the regulatory sign. But it's impeding our advertising and our identification. Like I said, you have 23,000 cars a day at that location. And for people to have to worry about looking around any regulatory sign in order to see where that location is a hazard in itself. So we're asking that you allow us to continue to identify and to advertise the Skyline Chili by taking that where that sign is located now, moving in another 10 feet back from the road and putting it up at a height that will clear the regulatory sign. That's the only reason we're here tonight. If the regulatory sign is not there, we're not here. So the hardship that was created, and it is a hardship, if you are a sign user, if you're in commercial or retail, you depend on that sign. I know Skyline Chili advertises on TV, but Alex Lamborghini's, the great-grandson of the original founder of Skyline, is here tonight, and he runs that location. And he is adamant about trying to get that sign situated in a better way. Now, I appreciate your time, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
We'll be asking questions a little bit later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else speaking for this application? You want to come up and state your name and address for the record, please? Did you sign in, ma'am? I did not. I was wondering. Can you sign in for me, please? Sure. And put your address on there as well.
Thank you for
Thank you.
I'm not throwing.
Thank you.
Hey, I really wasn't here for this, but I do want to say this. I think your presentation,
Can you
Peters?
state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure. Carrie Davis, 8364 Royal Heights.
Thank you, ma'am.
But I think Mr. Peters' pictures actually exposed a very serious problem. I think Skyline happens to be right. Those signs, the height we have them at in Colerain, are blocking the view. Maybe that's contributing to why we have so darn many accidents in that area. It's the 8th highest place for accidents. So I don't think the signage at that height is working for that area. But as a business owner, if somebody blocked my sign, that would kill my business too. I mean, so much of that is important. for a business. And the fact that these signs were erected after they put up their sign in conformance says, it doesn't say the county or the state screwed up. I believe what his demonstration showed you was that we screwed up. I think we made a mistake. Our signs are too low. They're blocking the view of traffic and citizens. I think they're interfering with the ability for drivers to focus on the street signages, you know, that's telling them where to go and stuff. And I think maybe we actually need to look at the height of our signs. Right now, it's like what's that called when you layer things over on a piece of paper? You know, I can't think of the word, but right now, it's just a bunch of jumbled stuff all over each other. And there's no clear indication of where signage for businesses should be versus signages for, there's a crosswalk and people are going to be crossing streets here. So I think we've seen a really serious problem that was created a long time ago. I think Skyline is a business in very good standing. They always donate to the causes in the community. They keep their property up. And I think they are being harmed by this, and we should not just allow them to put their sign up higher, but I think we need to look at how these signs are structured going down the road, and if maybe these signs are contributing to the number of people getting hurt on Colerain Avenue and the number of accidents. So I think he needs this sign higher.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else speaking for this applicant? Stick your name and address for the record, please.
Alex Lambrinides. The address of the business or personal?
Whatever you put on here is fine.
On there's the business, 10197 Colerain Avenue.
Thank you.
Thank you for meeting with us this evening. I just wanted to mention that my family started this location on Northgate in 1999, and for the majority of those years, we were quite happy with our advertisement, the sign height, and it wasn't up until recent that I drive to work each day and I noticed those pictures that you had up there. Our sign was completely blocked, and you said in one spot, but as I drive up to the location, I estimated roughly 60 yards that it's partially blocked as well. So by the time that you get up to the restaurant and the turn lane to get in, it's very difficult to see that our location is there because of the highway sign that was put up, I think, roughly 5 years ago. So I do think it's hurting our business because by that time that you do recognize that we're there, potential customers would miss that turn lane and they would be continuing to head northbound. So for years it was great, and this is just something that's changed that, was out of our control. And I just hope that you guys can approve this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else speaking for this applicant? Do I have anyone speaking against this applicant? Sir, if you come forward and give your name and address for the record.
My name's Richard Semple. I live at 4447 Wood Trail Lane. I'm in the sign business. I've been in the sign business for 40 years. And one of the things Colerain Township is striving for is uniformity in its sign codes. And for a long, long time, we had signage of all various heights. You know about Frisch's Big Boys at 30, 35 feet tall. And now we've, over the years, we've established that 15-foot height for a reason is to get uniformity in scale through the streets of the city and the township in general. And ironically, I know Mike Cassidy, we used to work together, and so I'm not, his arguments are valid in the sense that the business needs to strive on its identification and where they're located. And the location off of Dry Bridge in Colerain, even if you only had 14,000 people recognize that that's Skyline Chili, if you got 10% of that, that's still a full day sales in the restaurant. And Skyline is a national, well-known brand. They just remodeled the building just past summer. And so they refreshed the building. So I empathize with signage being blocked by another business, because it happens all the time. But I think the zoning board had taken that into consideration. But I think in the long term, we have to think of what's best for the community. And unfortunately, we have a state highway that literally does divide Colerain Township in half. And that's one of the problems, that it is going through Colerain Township. We don't have the control over state standards. We've been on another project that I've been working on for decades here in the township is the interstate highway sign. And we again have to run into, that's another subject altogether, so I won't muddy the waters on this situation. But I think with Skyline, they advertised, just like any other business on Colerain Avenue. If you look at the new AutoZone sign, it should be taller, because it's down below the grade of Colerain Avenue. And it could be another 10 feet taller, so you'd notice it's there. But they rely on other identification on the building that gets your attention, and then you can possibly pull in. So I would take that information with what I give you tonight, is the fact that Skyline is a business. I don't think they're hurting where they're located. They always seem to have an adequate amount of customers there. And the height of the sign would, at 20-some feet, would diminish the standards that we've already created over the years. And we're trying to move in that direction and make a more moderate signage program for the whole community. And that's all I have to say.
Thanks, sir. Is anyone else here speaking in opposition? I have one other name on this list. Mr. Sweeney, do you plan on speaking this evening? Michael Sweeney? No? Okay. I see no one else is speaking for or in opposition of this application. Do we have a motion to close the public portion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Motion's been made. Do we have a second?
Second it.
Second's been made. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Bartle?
Yes.
Ms. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Shup?
Yes.
Mr. Sydow?
Yes.
Mr. Roberto?
Yes. Mr. Saito, would you like to start us off with questions for anyone that spoke or the applicant?
Yes, I'd like to ask Mr. Cassidy some questions, please. All of the pictures you show here on sheet 101,
Yes.
if you would move the sign to the corner of Colerain and Dry Ridge, it would be present, accessible, and readable to each one of these pictures. Why can't you move this sign there and have it remain at 15 feet?
You want to address that? Corner of where the... That's the ingress egress into Lowe's and...
Yes.
We had considered it. I'm not saying that we didn't.
Well, you're wanting to go against the township rules.
One of the reasons is at that intersection of the interstate and Colerain Avenue, as people were gathering themselves to go northbound, you're going to be able to see that Skyline Chili immediately. And that's part of their identification to tell people, hey, we're right here, and that will give you enough time as you come up that left lane to get into the turn lane to turn in.
But all these pictures that you've got on sheet 101, both
Right.
northbound and southbound, have a perfect view of that corner. So I don't see why you just cannot put the sign in that corner. If you want to replace the sign, you can stay within the 15-foot limitations.
Well, there is. Yeah. I mean, you can talk about that if you want.
Is he talking this or this?
So you're talking about moving the sign to
To the north side of your property.
the north side. I believe Mike made some renditions of that, but there was a large cost in moving the electric to that area, if I remember correctly.
No, that was their number one concern, in that they need to come from a different sector of the building itself. Okay, so the southeast corner of the building is where the electric comes out for the pole sign where it's located right now. We don't have to do anything on the electric end of it where the existing location is. In order for them to put it at that northeast corner, which is what you're talking about, I mean, it's a legitimate question, involves rerouting that electric from the building or through the building across all the blacktop and then doing a new installation. I mean, we're talking, raising the sign is $10,000. Probably to pull and run the electric, you could double that number. You're another $10,000 to reroute that electric.
Well, you've got a parkway there, so you wouldn't have to tear up any asphalt. You could just tear up the parkway to run the electric under the parkway.
Under the parking lot.
Under the parkway, the grass area.
Well, the building is island by the drive and the blacktop.
Can you give us an overhead, give us an overhead shot of that,
The
please?
whole building is surrounded by a blacktop parking lot and driveway.
There's a sidewalk.
Oh, you're talking about bringing it from the old sign location?
Yes.
There's a
Taking it from
sidewalk.
your old,
You can't make that run. The voltage drop would be too great. You couldn't use 120 volt and go from the south up to the north. I see what you're saying now. It's a grass area, and I understand what you're saying. But the problem is the voltage drop from the building out to where the existing location is, up to where the north location, the northeast corner is, right where you're talking about. That voltage drop is too great. So you'd have to come up with another means of electrical source, put a new pole in with a new meter or something or make that run from the building itself and then bring it back over. I understand your question. I missed there in the beginning, but that is too big of a voltage drop at that point.
That's all the questions I have.
Mr. Shupp?
That was my question too. You did allude to the fact that the pole's gonna cost $10,000, and then this would cost another $10,000. But if you're not,
That's my guess, yeah.
okay, but if we're not taking the pole up, we're using the same pole, we're still talking 10,000. And I know these are approximates because you haven't priced the
Well,
electric.
In order to take the existing sign at the existing height where it is now and then put it over at that other location, still requires a new concrete foundation, still requires a new base pipe because you're going to cut that pipe off at grade and leave it in the ground where it is. And so now you need a new base pipe with new pipe rings so that you can sleeve the existing into the bigger pipe. So we have this pipe here, and now we need to get it into the ground. Well, we have to set a bigger pipe that has pipe rings around it in order to let that thing slide down to that. So, yeah, you've got that additional cost to where we basically would buy one piece of pipe that size, do what's called a direct burial, anchor that down into the concrete foundation, and then take the sign from point A and put it at point B.
Okay, thank you.
I wish I would have said that earlier. We did look at a bunch of the alternatives to this, and what was that? What did you put into this location on the renovation?
Over 200,000.
Huh?
Over 200.
So we have 200,000 invested in the location now, and so they're like any other business. You know, how many three-ways do you have to sell to recover 200,000? And now we'd have to recover another X number of dollars for this other location. But the sign would work effectively where it is if we could raise it, or take the regulatory down.
You have a further question, Mark?
No.
Thank you.
Ms. Owens?
Have been addressed.
Okay. Mr. Bartle?
I guess one question would be, have you had any conversations with ODOT? Or are they,
I really don't want to be a smart aleck about this, but yes, and it was a while ago, and to deal with ODOT, I mean, they're not going to give you anything. It's like Mr. Simple, and I didn't know he had looked at their profit and loss statements and knowing that they're doing very well, but the restaurant business is a cutthroat business. And anybody that's been in the restaurant business knows that it's a cutthroat business. And survival rate is pretty tough. The answer to your question is, yes, I have dealt with both Kentucky and Ohio and Indiana.
no, about
And
this particular sign?
no, not that particular sign, I have not. Trying to get them to do anything in my past. And I had a similar situation with Sipsey Klein Realtors over in Anderson Township. And I asked the
Yeah,
state.
but this is not germane to the question. The question was, did you talk to ODOT about this? So let's
the
not go
answer
on
is
about
no.
some other property.
No.
Thank you.
Okay.
But the answer to be fair to the answer is that I have dealt with, his first question, have you dealt with ODOT?
On this particular sign.
And my answer is yes, I have. For this particular location, no. Have I done it with signage before? Yes.
Thank you.
And you mentioned voltage drop, so how far could you move it north before the voltage drop is an issue?
I think it's 600 feet or 400 feet. I'm not exactly sure exactly what the distance is, but I know that we have had that issue with other signage where we try to relocate it, and the electrician comes back to us and say, look, you're only going to be pulling 90 volts. This is too long. It's too big of a voltage drop.
Well, yeah, but at some point, it could be moved north, potentially. That's the only point, so.
Yes.
We're getting into a situation where if your sign becomes 22 feet or 24 feet, then everybody up and down Colerain's going to want the same thing. That's the problem.
And I'm not being, again, I'm trying to be fair on this. I have done presentations with municipalities involving their zoning administrators and their zoning enforcement people, and when that question comes up, my only response is the variance board weighs each and every individual case on its own merit and not what the other guys got. It's the only way I know how to answer it.
I would disagree with that because we do take previous cases in precedence of whether or not we grant a variance for some other case. So we do take it very seriously when we grant a variance, and we then reflect on how that's going to affect future cases. So I would say our board is different than probably the other boards you've come across then.
Maybe so, and I'm not questioning that. I'm just saying that basically, no other way to put it, the responsibility of the variance board is to weigh each individual variance based on its own merit, whether it's a garage door, a garage that's closer than what's allowed to the fence line or the property line. Each one of those has to be weighed on its own merit.
And then part of that is creating a hardship, and that's why we're judging based upon whether this is creating a hardship.
Understand.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Nope.
No, the public portion has been closed, but I can ask you to come up and give your opinion on what has been presented from an expert opinion, because you are in a sign. I do have a question for you, so if you would come up and stand before the podium, and I have a question for you that may answer the question you're going to ask. If you could come up and stand up at the podium, please. So my question to you, in your opinion, if relocating this to the corner lot, would that be the ideal solution for you from a sign maker's perspective?
Yes.
Okay. And
I put in signage at Tri-County Mall and the marquee signs. We had to put 480 volt circuit out to that sign. The bottom line on this is the fact that it is an unexpected extra expense. But we put the sign in the right location, in the long run, it's gonna be better for everybody. We all know Wawa is gonna be another block up the street, and that's gonna create another situation traffic-wise. So much as I respect Mike, and he has to represent the client in the proper way, I think you gotta get outside the box and think of what's better for everybody. And a business will incur an unexpected expense, so be it. But it's done right. It's for the whole, and that's what you gotta think about.
Thank you, sir. I had one other question for you. And my thought was a monument sign, because part of the issue why we don't do a monument sign is because it's going to block people's vision for turning in and out. Well, the way that the Dry Ridge Road exit now is, it's really only a right, or, I mean, it's kind of it's not going to be blocking any turns, because you're not turning left on red, you're turning right on red, but you can see the traffic. Do you, in your expert opinion, because you're a sign manufacturer, could you do a monument sign there and still do a monument sign? Now it's low below this regulatory sign, and now you can see it even better because it's below a regulatory sign. And I'll give the applicant an opportunity to speak to this as well.
I don't recommend a monument sign in that location.
Okay, perfect. That's all I really wanted to know. So,
That's, you know, there's other locations next to our corner lot at Springdale Road and Colerain where you have the restaurant. It's wide open and it's a low type sign. It works just fine, but in that location, it definitely got to be on a pole.
okay, thank you, sir.
Can I say something to the board?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Miller wanted me to make sure you guys know that if you're not ready to make a decision on this, you can always carry it on to the next meeting. And we would work with the applicant to try to find alternatives to the sign height if you're ready to rule. That's okay too. But we wanted to make sure you knew that.
Well, last month we already voted on this, actually. So I mean, we've seen this now twice, and now it's increased in size from the last time we saw it.
Yep.
It got a no last time because it was too high and not appropriate. Does anyone here want to make a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Bartle?
Are we ready?
Sure.
I'll make a motion to deny the variance request.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
So a motion's been made and a second. Any discussion? I see none. Roll call vote.
Mr. Bartol,
Yes.
Ms. Owens,
Yes.
Mr. Shupp,
Yes.
Mr. Sydow,
Yes.
Mr. Roberto.
Yes. Move on to the next case. BZA 24-4. This is a conditional use at 2675 Civic Center Drive.
Can we stop? Hey guys, we're trying to move on with the meeting. Next.
This is for a conditional use at 2675 Civic Center Drive. The staff have a presentation.
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, the projector's acting up again. 2675 Civic Center Drive. We're looking at expansion of a conditional use. It's R6 residential, and the applicant's name is Bob Riggs, representing Hamilton County Math and Science Academy. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Mr. Miller said he'd take care of this.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
He did.
That's where you live.
That's why he's not in the room.
The lot in question is currently occupied by a school, and it's a conditional use in the R6 residential zone. The school has grown beyond the capacity of the primary building, and they've been using portable buildings for classrooms to accommodate the growth. The short-term solution has grown increasingly less suitable to the needs of the school, and the applicant's requesting an expansion of their conditional use existing upon the site. The requirements for educational facilities in the R6 residential zone are specified in section 7.4.5 of the Colerain Township zoning resolution under educational facilities, and they are listed as an approved use. On the plan submitted by the applicant, can we have silence in the audience, please?
Yeah, if you need to take a discussion, if we can take it outside. Thanks, sir.
Tree buffer is maintained between the property in question and the adjacent multifamily development to the rear of the property, which is zone PDR. It's an apartment complex. New signage is not being proposed at this time, though the applicant has stated that they would eventually like to add wall signs to the building and that those signs would conform with the zoning resolution and do not require a variance. Sorry. These technical difficulties. Okay, I think I got it back up now. Let's try this again. Okay, so those are the case details that I just read. The zoning issues, the main zoning issues in a conditional use case are listed on the screen, and that's the 4 items that the board considers as to whether or not the conditional use is appropriate at that site. Here's the site plan. It's included in the packet. It's included in the slides that were given to the board, and this shows the elevation of the building from all angles. Staff believes that this elevation and this type of architecture conforms with the character of the neighborhood. Here's a overview of the site showing adjacent streets. And this is a closer view, and this would show some adjacent streets. So the dot is over the current Hamilton County Math and Science Academy, and this is the portion of the land that would go to the expanded classrooms. Here's a aerial view of what that would look like. So you see the edge of the parking lot here. I think the applicant can tell you exactly how that's going to be built. And right now they're using portable trailers that are located back here, and it's not suiting the needs. They've outgrown the need for those. So from section 4.4.3 of the Colerain Township zoning resolution, staff findings are that the conditional use is allowed in the district that the building is in. It's staff's opinion that the use is in accordance with Colerain Township's comprehensive plan and zoning resolution. It's staff's opinion the conditional use will not substantially alter and or permanently destroy the appropriate use of the neighborhood. And it's staff's opinion that the use will not create excessive requirements at a public cost for public facilities. So for that reason, staff recommends approval of the conditional use on the condition that the portable building shall be removed when the new building is open. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? If I remember correctly, we saw this before when we gave them the temporary building, so it's been some time ago. Is the applicant present? Want to come give a presentation, sir? State your name and address for the record.
Yes. Thank you. It's Bob Riggs with Oswald Company.
Thank you.
Address 308 East 8th Street, Cincinnati 45202.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hello. Thank you for the time tonight. Just a quick overview and a few emphasized points that staff mentioned. The existing facility houses grades K through 8, and up to 5th grade is in the existing building. And now grades 6 through 8 are housed in the modulars behind the existing building. The point of this project is to create a new brick and mortar building aligned with the southeast corner of the existing parking lot and remove the modulars so that the kids in 6 through 8 have their own building with a gymnasium and 8 classrooms to house their facility and their activities, so that grades K through 5 are in one building, 6 through 8 in another building. The modulars would be taken down after the project's completed, so we're not adding any new students or staff to the existing facility use of the project. So we're not adding any demand to any of the utilities that are currently on the site. With that, we've also done due diligence with water and sanitary to get water and sanitary availability through MSD, and got approval from them for the sanitary availability. So with that, I'd like to open up to any questions also.
We'll ask questions a little bit later, but thank you, sir. You're welcome. Anyone else speaking for this project, this application? Anyone speaking against this application? Ms. Julie, I think you signed up for this. Did you have something you wanted to say about this application?
I don't hear you.
Okay. I think you signed up for this case. Or do you have something you wanted to say?
Well, it's, they want to be able to
Well, before you get started, ma'am, state your name and address for the record, and then if you can do that in the podium there, please.
My name is Julia Pavlor, and I live at 2562 Wilson Avenue,
Thank you, ma'am.
and I live directly from behind this school. That has been a plumbing problem or something that goes on for years. That's running down from there. It's took my fence away. It's took part of my yard. It goes so fast like that it even goes into my crawl space of my house. And there's a big spillway at the end. There's 2 doors from me. It's at the end of the street. And it's a big concrete spillway there that it rushes so fast, it's washed all the mud and stuff underneath that spillway. It's just sitting there with nothing under it. And like I said, it's took, you know, my yard, and the man that's run that place don't answer my phone calls. I've even went there in person, and the girl at the desk said, well, I'll see if he's in. She goes in and tells him my name, and he don't answer me. And so I've called everywhere that I could call. Colerain Township, all the sewer places, and they all say that's not our, you know, problem. So I've had to just deal with it. Like I said, it just totally ruined. I had a big stone wall there for years ago that it's run so hard and so fast that it's knocked them big, huge stones down into the water too.
Yes, ma'am.
And no help. I mean, I finally give up on calling every place you could call. And they'd all say, well, that's not my, some of them will say, they keep throwing me back to Colerain Township saying that's their duty to keep their, you know, vicinity up to date. And they say, then I call them, they say, no, you need to call this, each one of them. No, I don't know who told you that, but you just go, you know, going around in a circle about anything to have help. So I have just, like I said, it's so fast, it would, coming down, you can see it coming from that school. A big stream of it rushing down so fast, it'd knock you down if you stand there while it's coming, and they won't do nothing about it.
Do you have an overhead? Do you have an overhead shot?
They have this room addition built on there. I would say no till they fix what they've damaged on my property.
Ma'am, I'm gonna go up there. I'm gonna go up there. Can you give me the satellite image?
Her property is right here.
So this is a representation of where your property's at, right here across the street.
It's just straight behind the school.
Yes. I spoke with,
And my place is the only place that it's destroying. The other ones, it's not affecting it, but it curves around to my yard from that school.
1 second, Mr.
And
Luna.
taking part of the yard even away.
I'm trying to see a satellite image, so I want to make sure we understand what your situation is.
When it comes back on, the satellite should be up there, and we can move it around. Okay, so that's Hamilton County Math and Science. The speaker lives down here on this road. Yeah. Is this your house, ma'am? Okay,
I want the photographic image.
gotcha. Okay.
So there's an actual stream there, it looks like.
Yes, there is.
All right, now zoom back out if you please, would.
Sure.
And now go back to your topography or whatever, because the trees are kind of covering what we want to see.
Okay.
And go down there. Thank you.
The stream is not shown here. It is shown on cages.
Okay. So is there a stream that runs behind your property then?
Oh, the whole street.
Okay.
But it only affects mine by coming down from his, and it's curving around like that in my yard. You can see it rushing down from there.
So when we get to that point, we start asking questions, I'm going to ask the questions to the applicant, some of the things that you've addressed. Is there anything else that we need to talk about that you're concerned with? Could you hear me?
Maybe this situation that they won't take care of it.
Okay. Well, we'll address the applicant. We'll talk about that in just a little minute. If you have any other questions or concerns, now's your time to bring them up, and we'll address that when we do our question and answer. Is that all you have, ma'am? You're satisfied with that? With what you had to say? You're satisfied with what you had to say in this session? You said everything you want to say? Okay. Anyone else speaking in opposition? I have two other people to sign on this sheet. I've got Timothy Moore and Steve Cordy. Which name are you? Are you? Steve Cordy. Okay. If you could come forward and at least give whatever you signed in, so let.
Yeah, I signed in just in case to answer any questions.
And well, at this point, come up here and introduce yourself, so then we have a reason to ask you questions.
My name is Steve Cordy with the Kleinger's Group, 6219 Center Park Drive, Westchester, Ohio 45069.
And what is your position while you're here today?
I'm the civil engineer representing the applicant and the owner on the project.
Thank you. So can we ask you some questions later?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have Timothy Moore is signed up. Timothy, are you planning on speaking this evening?
If need be. I'm representing the school.
Okay, if you want to speak as to why this is needed, what reason, why you're here, and why you need a variance, that sort of thing.
Yes, to support.
State your name and address for the record.
Timothy Moore, 2675 Civic Center Drive.
Thank you, sir. And you've got a reason why you need to have, I mean, has your presentation already been fulfilled?
Yeah, they
Very good, sir. Thank you. I see no one else on my list to speak for or against the application. Can we close the public portion?
I'll make a motion to close it.
I'll second.
Motion is second made. Any discussion? I see none. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Bartol?
Yes.
Ms. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Shup?
Yes.
Mr. Sido?
Yes.
Mr. Roberto?
Yes. Mr. Sido, do you have questions for the applicant or anyone that spoke?
Not this time, no.
Okay. Mr. Shup?
I wanted to get some clarification on this water, but would that be appropriate to bring the civil engineer up at this point?
Absolutely. If the question was, you want to question somebody that spoke, yes, you can.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Have you been made aware of this issue that she's having with her yard?
We had heard there was an issue. We understood it was related to sanitary sewer. We were unaware of a storm drainage concern, but I can address it if you would like with the proposed plan.
Please.
So the proposed building, generally all the stormwater from the proposed building and the surrounding area will be directed to a stormwater detention basin, which will meet Hamilton County stormwater regulations, will control and slowly release the runoffs to actually reduce the runoff into the stream in question. So we're going to meet Hamilton County, the building department, the development department's requirements for stormwater management.
And I'm sure you're not familiar with this particular piece of property. Do you feel this would solve her issue?
I'm not going to say it's going to solve her issue, but I can say we'll meet the county's regulations, which generally requires us to reduce the runoff coming from our proposed development.
Right.
So we'll meet that. I mean, I know there's a stream through there. I'm not unaware of the specific problem.
It looked like there was a lake, and I mean, there should be some underground springs and all kind of stuff going on there.
Could be. I'm not in exactly aware of everything going on out there, but I do know we'll meet the county's regs for stormwater management.
Thank you. Mr. Shup, do you have any other questions?
No, thank you.
Ms. Owens?
No, my questions were about the water as well.
Okay.
Mr. Bartle?
Not really. I mean, we don't have a site plan that shows where the new building's going, but did you say it's down by the parking lot?
It is on the, yeah, if you can pull up the aerial photograph, please.
Yeah.
Maybe. It's right on the,
It's pretty close to the area in
it's the
question.
southeast. So that parking lot will remain. It's on the southeast kind of line of that parking lot
To the right?
to the kind of bottom right diagonal.
Yep.
Is it going to stay in the green space or are you going to go into the woods?
There's a little bit of clearing that will be required.
Okay.
And that's only because you didn't want to build where the portable classrooms are? They have to stay during construction, correct?
They will be in operation during construction. I mean, they're currently kind of behind the building, so we're looking for a little better, street presence, if you will, putting it where we're proposing.
I can expand a little bit on that too.
Great.
The area for the construction project is the southeast corner, right where the marker is now. It takes out a little bit of the tree clearing, but it also allows us to not interfere with any of the existing parking on the campus, and allows us to keep the modulars in use the entire time of the construction project until we're finished, and then take those off.
So where's the proposed detention ponds going to be, in that same area?
To the rear of the building, kind of south.
Basically where the end of the grass area is now, to the back right corner of the lot, bottom right corner. So right in that vicinity. So the project being on the site is actually going to control the water, because right now it's running on the grass down that slope. Now with the building in place, the building is capturing all the water from the roof and all the parts of the building, maintaining it and pulling it down into the detention basin to then be dispersed at the requirements of Hamilton County to the regulated amounts.
Are you amenable to meeting with this property address at 2562, just making sure her situation is going to be better as a result of your doing this development?
We have no problem meeting with the owner.
Perfect. Any other questions, Mr. Purtle?
No.
You made me happy. That's fine. Any questions? Anybody would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the variance, including the staff recommendation to remove the modulars
Once the project's completed?
once the project's completed in a timely manner.
Yeah. Do you have a time frame for this? What's your scheduled build and finish date?
Yeah.
Yes, the start date is going to be this summer, around June or July, with a finish date of next April, May timeframe.
Okay.
So the modulars should be out before school starts next year.
All right. Perfect. That's
And-
satisfying?
And added to the motion to have the applicant/contractor meet with the property owner who has concerns about stormwater.
Property owner at 2562 Wilson.
What do you mean by meet with?
We want to make sure that owner is not being harmed by this development. So if they're going to do some water detention sort of things, make sure that her needs are satisfied.
Okay.
Just as a courtesy to just being a good neighbor, because that's where they're at.
So for the record, the condition is portable buildings shall be removed when the new building is completed, and the contractor or applicant shall meet with the owner of 2562 Wilson.
Correct.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank
So a motion has been made. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second's been made. Any discussion? I see none. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Bartol?
Yes.
Ms. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Shupp?
Yes.
Mr. Sydow?
Yes.
Mr. Roberto?
Yes. So ma'am, when they start this project, they're going to get with you. They're going to make sure that your property is not harmed, and they're going to try to address this water runoff issue as part of their development. Okay?
And I want paperwork to saying he will fix that before I say anything.
Well, that's not what we discussed. They're going to come talk to you, make sure your property is not being harmed any further. It should be better when they're done.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Riggs, do you have a business card you can give her? Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
They're going to give you a business card.
It's up to you. You can stay in your own.
No, ma'am, you're good. Mr. Miller, will you help her out? All right. All right. I'm gonna forget my. It's buried under here. I think. Here we go. All right. Next case I have on the docket would be BZA 24-5. This is for a variance at 3574 Blue Rock Road. Is the staff have a presentation?
I do.
Thank you.
So we have 3574 Blue Rock Road. The applicant is seeking multiple variances. This is the construction of a new Wawa gas station. It's in the B1 Neighborhood Business District. The applicant is Jonathan Woker, and the property owner is R&K Developers Incorporated. The property included in this case spans several different addresses. They currently contain multiple buildings that will be demolished pending approval of this case. Sorry, screen's cutting out again. The site, which is approximately 2.0 acres, or 2.08 acres, is being proposed as a second location for the Wawa convenience store within Colerain Township. Thanks, David. The first variance addresses the building size for the automotive fuel services that will be at this location proposed. The proposed size of the building is 5,919 square feet, which exceeds the maximum 5,000 square footage in a B1 neighborhood district. That 919 square foot variance amounts to 18.38% variance. The second variance addresses the impervious surface requirement of the site, which has a maximum coverage of 65%. The applicant is requesting a coverage of 71.5%. This increase amounts to a 9.23% variance. The zoning issues for those are both found on Table 8-2, Business Site Development Standards, that says the maximum building size is 5,000 square feet and the maximum lot coverage is 65%. In both of those instances, the staff feels that the staff finds that these are not significant variances and they will not raise the intensity of the site. The buildings that are there right now are way more than 5,900 square feet, and if new buildings were built, they would also exceed 5,900 square feet if these lots are kept separate. So staff does not believe the intensity will be increased on the square footage. As far as the impervious surface, anything over 65, the board should potentially consider more intense landscaping. But the amount of a 9.23% variance is also does not raise the intensity to a level that should block a variance. So that leaves us with the signs. The final variance proposes the total wall sign area. The proposed building has a total of 163 feet of lot frontage on a corner lot, making the maximum wall sign area under 163 square feet, a ratio of 1 square foot per lineal foot of building frontage. And that's found in 15.8.2D of our zoning resolution entitled Wall Signs. The total sign area of the wall signs on a single building frontage shall not exceed 100 square feet. But this proposed building will have a corner frontage, so their 163 feet would be adequate. So if we can get lucky with the screen, there are some pictures up there that will show what this Wawa will look like. And any questions about whether this is too intense of a development at that corner, people can see the building. So this is the front, this is an elevation of the building and a side elevation. And this really highlights the signage, but it also kind of shows you the design. It shows you that it's using the colors that it's using. And if we look at the lot plan, there is no space where any semi-trucks are going to be using this property. Before staff, I was a urban planner. I was a trucker. And I know by looking at this plan, I would never attempt to turn a truck into this lot. And any idea that there's going to be truckers using this site is not founded in reality. So these are the building elevations, and these are the signs that are in question. So we have some math that we did with the applicant that shows the total of sign area. And if you'll allow me to pull that up. The total wall signs I've calculated in the staff report, and they go over a little bit, but nothing significant or intense. Now, we just had a case about sign height and how anything over 15 feet is intense. Area is a little bit different. If you look at every wall of the building, every situation can be a little different. And going something like 9 to 10% of a variance is not something that would raise the intensity significantly. Now, for gas stations, Colerain Township has a long history of allowing signage upon the canopy, which is shown here. And that signage, staff believes too, is not intense. So we generally allow, and we've allowed recently, gas stations to have very small logos on their canopies. So that leaves us with one thing, and it's 5 wall signs that look like this. The question here is, are these signs or are these art? So if you consider these to be signs, then Wawa would have well over 200 square feet of wall signs, 280, I believe, and I can find that exact number on the PowerPoint. If you consider these to be art, they would be a little bit over, but not at an intense level. So when we're looking at the signage, if the board feels these are signs, then staff recommends denial of the variance request for signs. If staff feels, or if the board feels like this is art and not signage, then you should still not grant the variance for signage that would allow them 280 something square feet. But you should make a condition of the variance for the wall and canopy signs be they're allowed to have the art on the side of the building. So that's staff's recommendation. And the last thing I'll show is the current state of the site. So we saw where the Wawa is proposed to be, and we see what it is now. And I would question the board and everyone in this room on whether that would be an improvement. That's all I have.
Thank you. We got a long list here, so.
I have a question.
Sure. It's a question for staff.
I don't know if you can pull up the building elevations again,
I can.
but as far as the signage that you're calling art, on that one right there,
Okay, I'm sorry. With the projector issues, I'm been flustered with the slides.
I mean, you showed those three.
Yep, so
signs.
there's 2 on this side and there's 3 on the front side.
Well, my question is the sign that says welcome part of the art?
It's
Huh?
it's not. It's
Not.
a side, it's a wall sign. So that's already been included as a wall sign.
Okay.
And I think it would be on any business. The one what staff question and the entire development department couldn't really come to an agreement is whether a cup of coffee is a sign or whether that's just art to stop from having a blank wall. So I would like the board to decide whether they feel that's art or signage.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for staff? Is the applicant present? Give your presentation, his name and address for the record, please.
Yes, good evening. My name is Jonathan Woker. I'm with McBride Dale Clarion. I'm a planner representing this application. My address is 5721 Dragon Way, Suite 300, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45227.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I did give a flash drive to Mr. Peters. I know you're having AV issues, so maybe that'll work, maybe it won't.
Okay. We'll blame you if it crashes.
Please do. Well, thank you for your time. I think Mr. Peters gave a good overview. We are asking for a couple of variances. The first variance has to do with building size. So this proposed Wawa, which is a permitted use in the B1 district, would be 5,919 square feet. The B1 has a maximum building size of 5,000 square feet, but that's not really tied to a lot size or lot area. So a half-acre lot could have 5,000 square feet. A 2-acre lot could have 5,000 square feet. A 5-acre lot in B1 could have 5,000 square feet. So we think that when you look at the size of the property, we're just over 2 acres. When you look at the existing building coverage, so there's multiple parcels there, we have more than 20,000 square feet of building coverage today. And I think staff mentioned if this were to develop in individual parcels, you could have multiple 5,000 square foot lots. We feel that it's an appropriate variance to grant. We're at 5,900 square feet. When you look at the net floor area, again, that's kind of the area associated with the public, we are less than 5,000 square feet. The modern convenience store has multi-uses now. Wawa has a very strong food presence. I'm going to ask Mr. Warnament to speak on Wawa a little bit about what they do. So they're a little bit different than some convenience stores about that. So we think when you look at the size of the property and the scale of the use we have here, that the variance is appropriate. I will also point out that the existing UDF across the street on the north corner is also larger than 5,000 square feet. The second variance we're asking for has to do with impervious surface area. Also, we think we've got a unique situation here. We have to dedicate a significant amount of right-of-way along both street frontages. That right-of-way is not intended to be improved. That's expected to be green space. We have to dedicate almost a quarter acre, so it's 0.23 acres of land, and that's for this, and actually one of the slides shows that. I know we're bouncing around here a little bit, but when you look at the the green area on this slide, the blue area is existing right-of-way, the green area is additional right-of-way that would be dedicated. If we did not have to dedicate that right-of-way to Hamilton County for a road widening, that's not going to happen because there's no plans to widen that thoroughfare corridor, we would be at 65%. So the condition that we have is because we have to dedicate right-of-way, that's causing the need for the variance that to the 71.5%. I would also point out today's condition is approximately 74% impervious surface area. So the actual redevelopment built condition will be less impervious than the current condition that we have today. So we think that both of those variances are justified and that we have unique situations for this condition. I would like to talk about the signs a little bit. And if you could go through the next couple of slides, David. So this is our ground sign, so we meet code on that. The next slide. This is the front elevation. And again, you zoomed in, but without zooming in, we think that, you know, what you see is the Wawa. So we've got a Wawa above the front entrance, and that's our main sign. And then we have 3 panels on the left elevation there. A burger, a cup, and then, you know, encouraging you to buy. We feel that those are part of our building design. A lot of communities don't count those as signage. So we feel that it's part of the overall theme and the food service product that we're offering. If you go to the next slide, that's a detail of the Wawa sign, and then the next slide will be the side elevation. So we would have a sign facing Blue Rock, and then the next slide shows a detail of that Wawa sign. And then yep, keep going there. Thank you. And then one more. This is the back of the store. So the back of the store would then also have a Wawa and then 2 of those panels. And if you look at the staff's recommendation, as they've outlined it, the conditions of approval, that condition number 4, if the board decides that these panels are art containing no commercial message, then they recommend approval of those exact panels. And we believe that if the board would make that decision, we'd be consistent with recent variances that were approved. So for example, we would be about 22% of the overall sign area, which I think is consistent with what you've approved with recent other developments. A couple other things, and then I'll be ready for questions. And then if you'll keep going, David, then also I think it's important to note that there's relatively modest signage on a canopy. So you drive around and you see fuel stations. They have 1 sign on the front of this canopy, and then they have 2 signs at either end that are really going to be underneath the canopy. So when you look at this canopy signage, it's a very modest amount. It's about 24 square feet total, and we think that when you look at the whole package of signage, that it feels scaled to the development, that the art panels are part of the design, that they're part of the theme that they're trying to create. You know, we have entrance at the rear that's going to lead our customers into the food, sandwich, beverage area, and that's really part of the theme. So it's really more geared to our on-site customers than trying to track someone driving by with that information. So we concur with the staff's findings on the standards. We would ask that the board approve the variances with the 4 conditions, and we would ask that condition number 4, that the board adopts sentence number 2, which would basically say that these are art panels and not signage. And we feel that, you know, that's not really creating a precedent situation, that you're not going to have burgers and coffees on signs very often, or sandwiches. That completes my presentation. I do have Mr. Warneman here who would like to just give some basic background on Wawa, since we are new to the to the area, and I'll look forward to questions if you have them.
We'll get questions a little bit later, but thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Warner, would you give your name and address for the record, please?
Sure thing. Patrick Warniment, 260 West Baltimore Pike, Wawa, Pennsylvania, 19063. Thank you all for being here tonight. I think Jonathan covered everything really well. Just some company history. Wawa's been around since 1803. Started as an iron foundry in New Jersey. The Wood family started the company, and over time it morphed into dairy, cotton, and other things, and eventually a food mart. So really food is a very big deal for us. We didn't start selling fuel till 1996, so it's much different than a typical convenience store. I think you may have been able to see the rear elevation of the building. I mean, looks better than most front elevations of convenience stores that you see typically. So what we call wall art, I mean, we consider it to be art. You know, we get different responses everywhere. I will say I cover all of Ohio and part of Kentucky for us, and we've had one municipality call that signage so far in the last year. So if that means anything for context. But since we do have that rear elevation and we're new to the market, and it's not necessarily intuitive to people that I'm going to go to a convenience store to buy, you know, what you might buy at Penn Station or something like that. You know, that's something that we don't really have much of around here now, where food's such a big component of the business that, coffee, same thing. I mean, the, you know, quality of the coffee that we sell is, you know, substantially better than most convenience stores. So we think that, you know, those signs, they don't have any pricing on them. They don't have Wawa written on them. They're very generic and just welcoming things that, you know, show, you know, an interesting part of our business that folks here might not just intuitively know if you haven't been to a Wawa before. So I'm certainly, when it's appropriate time, I'm glad to answer any questions as well.
Thank you very much. Anyone else speaking for this application? Anyone speaking against this application? I have several people on this list, so I'm expecting somebody will come forward. I don't see your name on the list. Okay. Well, I'll address everyone else first. So so I have is it Mage Stark? Okay. How about Rick Davis? Okay. How about John Baer? Matt Hempberger? Lisa Corpus? Thank you. And then come on up here and I'll sign you in for you. Ms. Davis. Give your name and address for the record, please.
Carrie Davis, 8364 Royal Heights. Ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Love Wawa. Great company, great products, great people. Love how they treat their employees. I supported them on Colerain Avenue and spoke on their behalf, as long as they met some conditions. But this is not the right place for a Wawa. This is a residential neighborhood. Since the information came out less than 48 hours ago, 163 people have been on social media weighing in against the Wawa. There's a petition was distributed today, started being distributed, opposing the Wawa. Debbie Hosinger, Sherborne
No, we're not going to go through an entire list of names, ma'am.
Okay.
If they're not here to represent, then you
That's
can't
okay.
name off their
This
names.
is just evidence of how many people in the community, a lot of people feel that there was a fast one pulled on them. This was changed, the residential lot was changed to business under the premise that we were going to be putting in a little shopping strip, kind of like what's at Dairy Mart. And we're bringing in what I think is a couple steps better than a Thornton's, but no different. And it's going to be attracting people from Colerain Avenue, people from the highway, People who are transits, people who are truck drivers, I believe 99% of their locations sell diesel fuel, and they advertise to the truck drivers. I have a picture from their website, their corporate office, where they advertise fleets. You know, I mean, you can have a small fleet account, but you also have a lot of big accounts. I think this is a commercial enterprise that is not suitable for a residential neighborhood. I don't believe they should be given any leadway whatsoever. Last time I was all for it because it made sense. Right now, this makes no sense. They also have, I will mention, a lot of different designs for Wawa that might be appropriate in White Oak, that would fit in with everything that goes on there and the residential feel to it. Their particular design is very commercial and inappropriate for a residential neighborhood. There are no sidewalks. These facilities are known to generate, like Thornton's in them, typical convenience stores generate a lot of foot traffic. There are no sidewalks anywhere around it. That's a huge expense. That's going to add to the amount of cement down in Colerain, on Colerain in that area, which we don't need more of because of the water problems you guys constantly hear about. What are we doing about the underground gas tanks? There are gas tanks buried below that property from when Gulf was there. There has been no explanation when my family sold their property over by Northgate Mall and we had to pull the gas tanks out over 20 years ago. It cost us $600,000 because it was a hazardous issue. So we've got that issue that nobody's talking about. I do not think you should approve any, give them any leadway. The B1 was acquired under false pretenses, and it is not consistent with the residential character of that neighborhood, and the community is vehemently opposed. Love Wawa, love yous, but this ain't the place for you unless you want to change it.
And ma'am, address the board, not.
I can say what I want. I'm okay.
Ma'am, I just asked you to address the board. That's who
Well,
you're
I'm
speaking
done,
to.
so I'm okay.
Then you can go sit down. Thank you. All right. You have a question for?
No, that's it for public.
I'll get there. I just need to get my blood pressure back down for a second. There's appropriate ways to do things in business, and turning around and addressing an audience is not appropriate. Anybody. You're here to talk to the board, and ma'am, I'm just giving I'm now making my statement. I'm not asking for anything from you. If you're here, you give a presentation to us, and then we ask you questions. That's how it works. To turn around and talk to the audience is not what we're here about. So I appreciate the rest of you doing that, and ma'am, I'm sorry that you got called on that, but that's not how we do business here. No, ma'am, we're fine. So, anyone else to speak for? Anyone speaking against? I see none. Can I have a motion to close the public portion?
I'll make the motion to close the public portion.
Motion's been made. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second's been made. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Berthold?
Yes.
Ms. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Shupp?
Yes.
Mr. Sydow?
Yes.
Mr. Roberto?
Yes. Mr. Saito, do you have any questions for anyone that spoke or the applicant?
I don't have any questions. I just have a concern. How does 3 convenience stores within a 1.5 square mile area benefit anybody?
Are you asking for someone to answer that question? Because
Yeah.
it sounds like it is.
Anybody who wishes to answer.
Certainly, I mean, we do research on, the market, demographics, all that stuff. I mean, we feel very confident about this location, so.
You're talking,
But just to make it clear, we're not here about use, we're here about variances. The uses, we're there on the use, so.
that was my only problem, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Shupp, do you have any questions for anyone that spoke or the applicant?
No.
Ms. Owens?
I think you addressed this, but I just want to be clear. The person who talked about the difference between the signs and the wall and it being considered art, you said that these don't change. What is the materials that these signs are made of?
It's a wood grain material that, you know, fits in with the building.
It's like a wood PVC type of material. It's going to last forever.
It's non-illuminated.
Okay, and it's not gonna change, like, you know, National Coffee Day, we're not gonna see any marketing on these signs? That was my question.
Thank you. Mr. Bartle?
Does this proposed building, not that it matters, is it the same size as the Struble Road, or are we looking at?
Absolutely exactly the same.
Okay. So this is like your national standard, or?
Yeah, we've got some, like Florida, like for Florida, for example, their prototype's different. You know, it's kind of like yellow, you know, fits in with Florida, has palm trees around and that kind of thing. Obviously,
Yeah.
we're not doing that here, but Midwest, all the buildings are basically gonna look the same.
Okay. I think if you had a question about size, I'll leave that to you, but.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, if there had to be a reason to shrink the building, is that physically possible, or does that make the operation of the building not feasible?
Sure, I mean, we've got a lot of storage area for the fresh food that we use and that kind of thing. We haven't done that yet in dozens and dozens of stores that we're working on in the Midwest, so. And like I said, I think Jonathan explained pretty well. I mean, the buildings out there today total way more than what we're doing, and if all these lots develop on their own, it'd be far in excess of what we're doing.
Right, okay, that's all, thanks.
Well, I had the pleasure of going into Florida one just a couple days ago, so I got to see it for the first time. I've never been in a Wawa in my life. So it was a nice facility. I guess it is different than what we're proposing here. Because I was going to ask about size, if that was kind of a national scale, or if it scales up and down, you know, depending on where they're at.
They're all relatively within a couple hundred square feet of each other, so. I guess I should have mentioned too, we've got roughly 1,000 stores today. We're trying to get to 2,000 in the next 10 years. So obviously, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, Tennessee, we have 0 stores open today, but Liberty Township, Fairfield, and a few other places, we've started demolition, things like that, so. And we own all of our stores. We don't do any franchising whatsoever.
There was some alluding to semi-trucks. Obviously, there's going to be a semi-truck going on the property for gas, so it's feasible.
And we've got, you know, auto turn templates that show that, but that's smaller than.
But it's not.
The big semi-truck.
You're not going to be able to accommodate a semi-truck, and you're not advertising for a semi-truck to be in this space.
No, we are not advertising for semi-trucks at all.
You've done an analysis. Where do you anticipate most of your traffic to be coming from? I mean, are you going to be robbing from your other Wawa, or is this you got your own unique source of demographics in this space?
Sure. I mean, we track cannibalization against our other stores, so this is far enough away from the one on Colerain Avenue that they shouldn't hit each other.
And there was something brought up about previous tanks. I'm assuming you guys are already aware that there's probably something under the ground there, and you're gonna take care of that and resolve it. So you're gonna take that potential hazardous situation away from us.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And we've got a development partner, I should have mentioned too, Anchor Properties, so we do long-term ground leases with developers a lot of the time, and it's in our lease that if we're ever to leave, which we won't, but in the odd circumstance that we do, we have a contractual obligation to remove our tanks.
Okay, thank you. I think I've addressed, I mean, traffic is traffic. You're not going to be able to control that. We're reducing the number of in and outs by 4, at least on Cheviot. We are reducing the in and outs, looks by 2 on Banning. Your visibility, is the elevation, is this going to change from where the current elevation? Are you going to be raising this up at all, or is it going to be kind of where the current elevation is?
I'll have to ask John, our civil engineer, on that.
And McBride might be able to answer it as well.
There'll be some grading. It'll be slightly lower, but yeah, we're working on filling that property and creating a level pad there.
So it's going to be lower, and so it's not going to be higher to actually block any visibility, because that was, I think, some of the concerns I saw online about it blocking traffic visibility.
We're going to be blocking invisibility, no.
Okay.
We're going to be well set back. I mean, you'll actually have visibility that you don't have now around that corner.
That's what I perceived as well. I mean, you've got several buildings now there that are definitely an eyesore.
Ready to be replaced.
Yes.
But you're creating a level building plane.
We're going to create a building.
So does that mean like a retaining wall somewhere?
I'm going to ask John. I shouldn't speak on things I don't know the exact answer on, so I'm going to ask John Baird comment on that.
And John, if you come up and give your name and address for the record, and then what your role in this project is.
Absolutely. John Bayer with Bayer Becker, 6900 Tylersville Road, Mason, Ohio. Bayer Becker, we're the civil engineer and landscape architect on the project. Civil engineer myself, and we have landscape architects on staff. So we haven't done a final detailed grading plan yet. That's a little bit further in the process, but we do anticipate a small wall along the south end of the site. And our site would be slightly lower than the property to the south, if that makes sense.
So the dentist office,
Well,
which is currently to
yeah.
the south, would have a wall adjacent to its property.
I was thinking east to west.
Nothing planned east to west
Really?
at this time.
Okay. All right.
Again, haven't done a final detailed grading plan, so it's possible, but our preliminary looks east-west doesn't look like we have.
Does have a dip there. So.
Yeah.
And there is a large landscape buffer that's required along the east side, which gives us an opportunity to do a little bit of grading change if we need to.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
I noticed that there's right in and right out only on the Banning Road. So your idea is they're going to go in on Banning Road and come out, or excuse me, right in and right out on Blue Rock Road, and then they would go out off of Banning Road if they were to enter the property. Is that how I'm perceiving it?
We expect that there will be a restriction on the access to Blue Rock as we've shown.
And you're anticipating that people will turn in on Banning Road to get into the property going south, correct?
Yes.
You're not going to have them cross over Banning Road or Blue Rock Road at that point?
Right. It would be a restricted, that's what we expect the county will impose on this development.
Yeah, I know they currently do it on Thornton's on Colerain Avenue. It
I
drives me
think, as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, that there's multiple driveways there today. So, we're reducing the number of access points by a pretty good number compared to what's out there today.
Right. I don't have any more questions for the applicant. Does anybody else have any questions for?
No.
Thank you for your
Would someone like to make a motion?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to approve the staff recommendations 1 through 4.
Let's go by one because we have 3 variances here, and I just want to make sure we address each one of them. So let's talk about variance 1 first, which variance 1 would be for the size of the property, the building on the property.
Yes.
If you can make a motion for that one, please.
I'll make a motion to approve item 1 on the staff recommendation.
Okay. Do we have a second to that?
I'll second.
Okay, so we've got any discussion? Roll call vote?
Mr. Bartol?
Yes.
Ms. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Shup?
Yes.
Mr. Sydow?
Yes.
Mr. Roberto?
Yes. Then the item 2 would be for the impervious lot percentage. Would someone like to make a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to approve the variance for the increase in lot coverage to 71.5%.
Okay. You want to do a second on that?
I'll second it.
Second's been made. Discussion? Roll call vote?
Mr. Bartol?
Yes.
Ms. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Shup?
Yes.
Mr. Sydow?
Yes.
Mr. Roberto?
Yes. The third would be, we have a choice. So you're going to have to phrase how you want this to be
Right.
done. So anybody would like a motion for number 3, which is the signage?
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the increase in signage, square footage for the actual signage, not the art panels, meaning the art panels are truly art panels and will remain that way forever.
So just a point of clarity, 200.2 square foot of signage
Correct.
with the condition that the panels are deemed art.
Correct.
And I'd like make one more clarification on that because we haven't got to the point yet, the discussion point. There's a front and a back. It's obvious what the front is. And the back, the welcome sign to me is a directional sign because it's telling them it's a door that you can enter in on that side of the building. So I wouldn't even consider that part of their signage because it doesn't say Wawa welcome. It says welcome. It lets them know that that's a door you can go into. So I would argue that's even kind of not even part of their signage.
I respect that view. Do we still want to do the 200.2?
It's going to get approved with that. That's
Yeah,
fine.
200.2.
I just wanted to, it was a talking point. Second, anybody want to make a second to that?
I'll second it.
So motion is second. Any discussion? Roll call vote?
Mr. Bartol?
Yes.
Ms. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Shup?
Yes.
Mr. Sydow?
Yes.
Mr. Roberto?
Yes. All right, next. Thank you. Next case, let me check that down over here, I think. Somebody give me a meeting note. Give me the meeting note, thank you. Next case would be BZA 24-6 is a conditional use at 10461 Pippin Road. Does the staff have a presentation?
I do. Thank you for waiting so patiently to the applicants and the people who want to speak in this case. So we are looking at a conditional use at 10461 Pippin Road. This is in an R6 residential zone. It's called New Hope Ministries, and the applicant's name is Paulo Boussard. Okay, so the lots are zoned R6 residential. The church on the site has existed for decades and has had an attached daycare on the site for many years. Following a recent fire, the church decided to enact a new plan to open a Christian school on the site Monday through Friday when the church is not in session. According to the applicant, the proposed school is planned to open in August 2024 and will be licensed by the state of Ohio. The applicant states there will be between 15 and 30 students and 18 to 36 individuals in total on the site while school is in session. There is a parking requirement for senior high schools of 1 parking space per five students, and that figure is greatly exceeded on the site because they already have parking there for the church and daycare. Since school's not in session during the time the church is in session, staff finds that the school parking requirements are separate from the church parking requirements. We have the same zoning issues we had in the earlier conditional use case. Section 3.3.2, 4.3.3a, and 4.3.3b, and that just lays out the terms for conditional use, and that's included in your packets. The site plan is shown. It's not very detailed. Nothing is. So they had a fire and they're building this out for the school, and this shows the floor plan, but they're not expanding upon the building to my knowledge. And this view on your screen shows the property and the lot lines, and this is a closer view of the property and lot lines. It's close to a large body of water. And then we can look at the satellite. We can see there's, it's a pretty big lot. It has about 200 feet of frontage along the front of the lot. It has plenty of parking. They've had it there for the church, and that's what they'll use for the school. So staff findings is that the staff's opinion that the use and the conditional use is allowed in this zone. It's staff's opinion that the use is in accordance with the objective of the Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan and Zoning Resolution. It's staff's opinion that the conditional use will not substantially and or permanently injure the appropriate use of the neighboring properties, and it's staff's opinion the use will not create excessive requirements at public cost for public facilities. So staff's recommendation is approval. There is a condition. The current signage should be replaced prior to the opening of the school, and a new monument ground sign that advertises the church to the daycare and the school should be erected. And staff and the development department came to this conclusion because for many years there's been an illegal daycare banner sign that has been used as a permanent sign, and there's no place to put any signage for the school. So we feel as though approving this variance could lead to further illegal signage. So we would like to add a condition that the applicant put signage that has room for all 3 businesses on the property. That concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Would you like to come give a presentation? Name and address for the record.
My name is Paula Boussard, and the address of the building is 10461 Pippin Road. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to address you and share a dream that actually goes back many decades. My husband and myself, he is with me. We pastor the church, New Hope Ministry. We've been there since 2005, which has got to be a miracle because usually pastors stay 4.5 to 5 years in a location, but we love our people. We love our location. And as was mentioned by Mr. Peters, unfortunately we had a fire, and it was December 23rd, a little over a year ago, that'd be 22, yes. And the fire didn't do much damage at all. However, the smoke damage just really wiped us out. We still are not back in the building. Thank you, insurance company, and some of the challenges that we faced. So we met with our folks, our congregation, in September and October, having been out almost a year at that time. So what are we going to do? Do we want to carry on? Because we're small in number, and definitely small because our congregation is would definitely be in the under-resourced demographic. So in talking to everyone, there's such enthusiasm about carrying out our mission, and my husband nor I nor anyone else really wanted to close the church, although that was an option. So we just said, okay, we're gonna go for it. Well, we didn't know what that was going to look like, because to raise money to even keep the, once we started really having regular services on weekends, it was going to be difficult. Well, lo and behold, out of a clear blue sky, I was approached by someone who is with Xavier and their education department, and she said, Paula, there's an organization, or you might want to think about getting connected with people who can support you if you have any desire to start a Christian school. And I said, any desire to start a Christian school? That would be amazing, right there in our sanctuary. It would be awesome. And what really clicked was two things. Even as we left her home, I said to Larry on the way, I said, this is amazing, because in 2018, I was able to take a course that was the first of many I've taken in trauma-informed care. And what it does is it traces back, this was all uncovered, in the 90s, about the effects of childhood trauma and what that has on young people growing up. And they identified at that point 10 ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. That a lot of you are nodding. You're a well-educated group, because so many people, even teachers and youth workers, have never heard of this. But the two doctors who developed this whole matrix have identified 10 major adverse childhood experiences, things like the child is abused sexually, emotionally, mentally. There's domestic violence in the home. There's someone incarcerated from the immediate family, and there are a total of 10. What statistics have shown, now get this, if an individual has 4 or 5 of the 10 ACEs, he or she is 1,350 times more likely to use illegal drugs or alcohol. Now, if that statistic won't get you, if a child has 6 or more ACEs, that number jumps up to 4,600 times more likely to use illegal drugs and alcohol. My husband and I, as part of our ministry, have taken in a number of people, men and women, who are struggling with addiction. We have one there right now. We've had 35, 36 since the early 2000s. And we're grateful that 2 have fully recovered and are married and back with their families. But believe me when I say that it really and truly has changed our course and our direction to realize that people don't have a choice necessarily to get off of drugs, because if they've got this hole in their heart, if a big part of their whole self-image and their whole history is so tarred and ripped apart because they didn't have a proper home life and a good solid mommy and daddy who loved them and would discipline them in love, then they never really can recover from that in most circumstances. You say, why in the world is she talking about all this? Because I have been so committed to working with people who identify as having a strong trauma background as a child, and because that's a part of our own family situation. The minute we were proposed the idea of considering a Christian school, I knew immediately that that was from us. Larry and I both were Christian school teachers. He was a principal. And then the idea that we can work with and mentor, create a mentor relationship with our students from people who aren't even connected with our church or the school. But you may be a mentor, sir, or any of you, any of us who are chosen and trained how to work with these young people. Big Brothers Big Sisters has a 97% success rate with the children that they are mentors to. What does that mean, 97%? It means those children who have a big brother or big sister don't have any encounters with the law when they reach age 21. And that is what we want to see happen here in Colerain. We want to see these children recover. We want to see them go on and grow on and become successful as adults. In fact, we're tentatively going with the name Open Door Achievement Academy, because we're going to focus on the positive. Each and every one of those precious children that we have yet to meet will be grades 7 through 12, has a unique God-given potential, and we want to do everything possible at any cost. If we've had 35 people living in our home who've stolen from us, you can imagine and these are adults, you can imagine what we want to do to see these kids healed. So that's what we're all about, and I'm very grateful for the preliminary work that's been done, and whenever it's time, I've learned that. When it's time, you may ask me whatever questions you want.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else speaking for this applicant? Anyone speaking in opposition? See no more motions. Can I have a motion to close the public portion?
Make a motion to close the public portion.
Motion's been made. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second's been made. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Mr. Bartle?
Yes.
Ms. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Shupp?
Yes.
Mr. Sydow?
Yes.
Mr. Roberto?
Yes. Mr. Saito, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No, sir.
Mr. Shupp?
No, you're not.
Ms. Owens?
No questions.
Mr. Bartle?
No questions.
I have one question for the applicant. The restrictions that the staff has put forth, do you have any issues with fulfilling that restriction? No, sir. So the applicant has stated no, she doesn't, so that's good. I would like to close my part. Does anybody have any motions?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the request with the following condition: that the current signage be replaced prior to the opening of the school with a new monument ground sign that advertises the church, daycare, and Christian school.
Okay, motion's been made. Do we have a second?
A second.
Second's been made. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Mr. Bartle?
Yes.
Ms. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Shupp?
Yes.
Mr. Sydow?
Yes.
Mr. Roberto?
Yes. Next on our agenda is unfinished business. I see none. We got approval of the minutes. Did we get the printed minutes up here?
I don't have the printed copy at the
We
moment.
did get the digital copy though? Yeah, I thought I saw the digital copy.
Yep.
Okay, did everyone read the minutes from the digital copies? Because someone like to make a motion to approve them.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
And do we have a second? Second's been made. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Mr. Bartle?
Yes.
Ms. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Shupp?
Yes.
Mr. Sydow?
Yes.
Mr. Roberto?
Yes, our next meeting will be March 27th, 2024. Do we have some meeting?
We
Nothing
don't
scheduled?
have a case, and the deadline was before I printed that, but we were waiting on potentially having one. Our next meeting will be in April 24th, I believe.
Okay. We'll change that. And any administrative matters?
We have an intern that has been working with our development department named Brody Smith, and he was present at this meeting, and I just wanted to introduce Brody Smith to the board. He's from University of Cincinnati.
Welcome.
He has a very lengthy presentation for you. Is that right, Brody?
Yeah, he's gonna use PowerPoint that you're supposed to get this all straightened out? Yeah, all right. All right, I see nothing else. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll
Motion-
second it.
Motion and second has been made. Any discussion? Roll call vote?
Mr. Bartle?
Yes.
Ms. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Shupp?
Yes.
Mr. Sydow?
Yes.
Mr. Roberto?
Yes. Meeting adjourned.